Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Today, I wanted to talk about a little bit of a controversial topic. It's basketball related, but there was a comment that was made by Draymond Green regarding Kendrick Perkins and his usage of the word coon. And I want to talk about that in this video. Please smash the like button, hit subscribe, the bell for notifications. Appreciate all the support, all those who listen, comment, and just engage with me on this platform. I want to start off by saying that one, I believe that this conversation is what we refer to within the black community as an in-house conversation. And when I say in-house, it's because there are certain dynamics that take place culturally, and in this case, within the black community, that is unique to our experience, right? The word coon has been used many times by people outside of the black community as a racial slur to harm, to degrade, to tear down the value, the humanity of other black people. And in some instances, even when it's used within the community, it has a similar impact, though not with the same energy or reasoning. And I want to dive into that here. Now, something within the black community that has always been clear is that there is a statement that says, not all skin folk are kinfolk. In other words, not everyone who looks like you in terms of the pigment of your skin, who you walk past every day and see another black person and you say, oh, that's a black person there. Simply because they're black does not mean that they have the better interests of you as a black person, right? And this is a significant conversation because many times there will be individuals who are propped up within predominantly white settings, such as ESPN, to speak on your community as a black person who are actually following the interests of individuals who hold power or desire power over the black community, either to control, either to extort or to take resources from the community, or to minimize the experience of black community members that sometimes has a financial, emotional, relational, career impact in black community members' lives, right? So we have this acknowledgement that sometimes individuals will speak in a way that reinforces different oppressive dynamics or power dynamics that take place between black community members and those outside of it, right? Usually to the detriment of black community members, right? And so we have different ways in which we acknowledge these individuals. Now, it may sound malicious, and in some cases, it is malicious only in response to the amount of perceived hurt and impact that it has on black community members of seeing this. Now, we use a bunch of different terms. Sometimes people call them Oreos, right? Black on the outside, white on the inside. That's more, recent terms, right? Because Oreos haven't been around for hundreds of years, right? But coon is actually another term that is used. Sometimes we refer to it as cooning, right? Dancing, not so much shuck and jiving, but tap dancing is another term that we use. When black people feel the need, or sometimes they're just so exposed to the normalcy of doing so that they unconsciously defer to whiteness and they tap dance or they dance along to the rhythm, to the direction that whiteness is headed in, regardless of the impact on black community members. Oftentimes, black people who do this don't even ask or think about the impact that their words, their actions that are prompted from white supremacy is having on black community members. Oftentimes, they don't even look into the reasonings why predominantly white systems, institutions of power, white community members are even espousing a certain narrative. They just go right along with it without even thinking about it. And as a result, they end up perpetuating whatever power dynamic, whatever oppressive dynamic or extortionary dynamic taking place that privileges whiteness or community members outside of the black community against black community members. And so when we use this term, we are speaking in reaction to or in response to an experience that we are having with another black person. Now, here's the difference. Here's a major difference. And I need to drive this home. Within the black community, we have ancestral knowledge and wisdom inside of us, deeply embedded inside of us. And one of the things that we have inside of us that has been a mainstay, a foundational piece for, I would say, generations upon generations. Now, it gets lost in some families and individuals, and sure, but there's still this inherent dynamic of this term. I believe it's Swahili. I've heard it in different settings. But the term is called Ubuntu, Ubuntu, Ubuntu. And this term basically means I am because we are, or I am because you are. It is the acknowledgement of our inherent interdependence and connection to one another, meaning that for me to harm you harms me. For you to harm me harms you. And so my desire is for our upliftment. And so what I will do is everything I can out of this energy. And what that also means is, as much as I might praise and big up you, because we know that's also big in our community too. There's a whole bunch of videos and TikToks and GIFs about black people seeing other black people looking good. Like, all right, now you're looking good. All right, I see you now. Keep it up. All right, I see you right there with the jacket. All right, shoes. All right. We have all these things to big up each other because we see this connection, and that energy is fostered between us easily. It's a beautiful thing. But we also hold each other accountable and call them into better levels of relationship. And this is sometimes done through calling each other out. Now, many times it's done subtly at first. And let's be clear, when it comes to the Stephen A. Smiths of the world and the Kendrick Perkins, right, more recently, do not believe for a moment that nobody has raised their hand and said, hey, I see you caping, meaning I see you using all your energy and powers to try to reinforce, right, like Superman, right, caping for people that ain't exactly for us, right? And in this case, in the NBA, there's a big power dynamic between ownership, which is overwhelmingly, predominantly white men, and players who are overwhelmingly, predominantly black men, right? There is an inherent power dynamic that Adam Silver does his best to try to smooth out and create a cooperative working dynamic, which, to be frank with you, is far more profitable as we see the huge leaps and bounds of profit the NBA is going through. And this is the backdrop of even this conversation. When you have ESPN pundits like definitely Stephen A. Smith, but also people like a Kendrick Perkins who speak on what players should do, shouldn't do, but more importantly, when they start speaking on their value as a player, and more recently, Kyrie Irving has been a major person, and Ben Simmons have been two individuals that have been dragged through the mud in terms of what their financial value is. And they do this in a way that impacts not just those two players' economic values and opportunity, right? That we see now that Kyrie Irving was considering opting out for another contract opportunity, right? And the impact that has had on him having to opt into his contract instead of opting out for an extended contract to get paid more, right? It also has an impact on the other NBA players, right? And when they begin to use language like, hey, these owners are going to be tired of this, and they're going to now use this in the collective bargaining agreement to reshuffle things and basically take away money from the players. This is done in, one, ignorance that the salary cap keeps going up because the NBA is actually making increasingly more and more and more and more basketball-related income, right? So you're talking about encouraging ownership, predominantly white men, to take away money that these players are earning and providing for the white owners because you don't believe one or two individuals have navigated their careers in the way that the owners aren't even coming out saying that you are assuming for them and then telling them to use that. You, Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A. Smith, then communicating and trying to normalize telling owners predominantly white men, to take away resources and monies created by these black players. Can you see the power dynamic here? Can you see the role that Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins are playing? And this is where the term comes in. When you see a Draymond Green say, yo, why are you speaking on players that you should be having the backs of? That you understand how hard we work. You understand what it takes to get to the mountaintop. You understand how everything has to go just right. Right? Some people jumping on the Brooklyn Nets, who lost to the eventual Eastern Conference champions and NBA Finals a runner-up Boston Celtics, who beat the Brooklyn Nets in the first round, right? Even though that was the lowest margin of losses or victories of a playoff series over the last 20 some odd years, meaning that it really could have gone either way. Every game was decided barely beyond like a few plays or shots made or missed, right? It wasn't this Brooklyn sucked and they were just terrible. Just so happens that Boston was hot and had this incredible defense, and Brooklyn was not ready yet to overcome that mountain. But you know who also wasn't? Milwaukee. You know who also wasn't? Miami, right? There was no shame in losing to the team that would eventually make it to the NBA Finals. They didn't lose to the Atlanta Hawks or the Charlotte Hornets, right? Teams that nobody expected to be able to get that far. They lost to one of the hottest teams in the NBA, right? So when they begin speaking and creating these narratives that are driven, and please believe, these aren't being driven by Brooklyn Nets. These aren't being driven by Kyrie and Kevin Durant. They're being driven by people outside who have their own motivations, who have their own perspective. And when those perspectives and motivations inherently undermine the financial and power dynamics of black people, this is where we call you into account and say, why are you encouraging the undermining of another black individual ability to be able to provide for themselves, to maximize their economic impact, and to be able to earn what they are deserving? You see, when people talk about what these players are worth, you have to understand, these owners are making anywhere between at least 2 to 3 times what they're paying the collective amount of players on their team. The entire roster salary, they're making 2 to 3 times that, just with the basketball related income. That's not to look at non-basketball related income. That means the stuff that is made in secondary and tertiary spaces based upon owning the land of a stadium, right? That's real estate, right? Owning the actual stadium, being able to create contracts and negotiate contracts with people who come in and sell food, vendors, clothing, ticket sale. Oh no, ticket sales is basketball related income, and parking as well. But the actual real estate value that you get to invest against, that you get to borrow against for your other businesses, tax write-offs, all these different things that impact the economic value of just owning the franchise itself. These owners might be making close to 4 times the amount. And I'm talking about each year what they're paying players. So these owners are not hurting for anything. It is not anywhere close. It's not this like, oh no, you're like splitting my dollars here. This isn't 50 cents on the dollar. It's not 49 cents on the dollar. It's more like 49 cents on the dollar on $10. So now you're trying to take, instead of giving somebody 49 cents, you're telling them, you know what, you should only give them 45 cents. Do you realize how that sounds to players? Do you realize how that sounds to individuals who are working their behinds off? Shoot, I only played community college ball, and it was like having a second job where we had 5 a.m. practices before 9 a.m. classes, and then get out of class by 3 so you can get into the trainer's room to get taped up before another 2 to 3 hour practice, and then another 2 to 3 hours of conditioning or weight room before you got to go to my second job, and then had to do homework late into the night, right? This is every day. This is every day, right? Imagine being a NBA player trying to stay in the biggest, greatest league in the world, right? Imagine the work that goes into trying to become a champion, with these guys sacrifice. Kevin Durant already talked about sacrificing desires to have a family, things of that nature, because he's like, yo, I can't give my time. I want to be able to give my time to parenthood, to a marriage relationship, to be able to really invest in it, right? We saw Kobe. As soon as he retired, he's like, yo, I'm shifting my energy to become a great dad. This is what I want to do. I've been sacrificing this for so long. These players sacrifice day in and day out. And for you as a member of the black community to come and speak out against them and say, yo, you're not worth this. That is the harm that Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith is causing. And when another NBA player or another person in the media or outside of the media comes and comments and puts in the comment section, yo, you cooning, you caping for these folks that is not for us and that are against us, yo, that's not a rejection of your humanity. That's a calling into community. That's calling you in and saying, yo, I desire for you to be with us. But what you're doing is dividing us. What you are doing is harming this community. And because we love ourselves and we love you and we want you to be connected with us, we are going to call you into relationship. We are going to call you into community. And we're going to do that by now calling you out on a larger scale because you haven't caught the earlier comments. Like I said, please believe this was not the first time Kendrick Perkins or Stephen A. Smith was being called out for cooning. This was not the first time that they've been called out for caping for an agenda that was inherently against the opportunities to gain resources, economic gain of black community members. This was not the first time. And Stephen A. Smith giving his little, hire more black coaches. Yo, do you know how little they're giving these black coaches? Do you know how short of a leash that they give many of these black coaches? That's not changing the bottom line. The bottom line is getting black people into ownership, right? The bottom line is the player negotiations with the league that happen every 4 to 5, 6, 7 years, right? That's the bottom line. That's the stuff that raises the floor, right? Hiring a coach for 3 years does not raise the floor as much as ensuring that we have black owners who create more opportunities for black coaches, right? But that's not what Stephen A. Smith is talking about. That's not what Kendrick Perkins is talking about. And if they do, it's a sprinkle on top of the sundae that they've already created of talking about how they are agreeing with these narratives that reinforce power dynamics against the players, right? And so this is what Draymond Green is talking about, from my opinion. But this is my opinion. This is my perspective. I respect it because I know the reading I do. I know the research I do. I know where I come from with it. All right. But I want to hear what you all think. What do y'all think about how the term coon was used by Draymond Green towards Kendrick Perkins and his actions and things that he was saying and doing? What is your experience with the word in general? Holla back at me in the comments section. And I'll get at y'all next time. Peace.